video introduces how to create new variables in SAS. So there are two basic ways to create new variables in SAS. The first way is with direct assignments or formulas. So here we're creating a variable C, which is equal to A plus B. Then notice we are creating the variable D, which is equal to 2 times A plus 3 times B plus 7 times C. So if you have a data set with variables A, B, and C in the data set, the formula creates the new variable D. BMI is created from the variables weight and height. So you have BMI equals weight divided by height squared. And notice that to create the variable A square, it's equal to A asterisk asterisk 2. So if you wanted to create A cube, it would be equal to A asterisk asterisk 3. So the two asterisks together raise that variable to the power. The second way to create new variables is with indirect assignments. So here we're creating a new variable called young, and we're saying that if age is less than 50, then young equals 1, else young equals 2. So the variable age, which is already on our data set, was used to create the new variable young with if, then, else statements. There are some important facts when we're creating new variables. New variables are initialized to missing. So at the beginning of each iteration of the data step, SAS sets the value of each variable created to missing. And SAS replaces the missing values as it encounters values assigned to the variables. So let's take an example to illustrate what I'm talking about. Here, again, I'm wanting to highlight that new variables are initialized to missing. So we're creating this data set new, and we're inputting the variable x. And we're saying that if x equals 1, then y equals 2. And then we have our data lines and two observations for x, a 4 and a 1. This data step produces a SAS data set with the following variable values. The first observation, we have x equal to 4 and y is equal to missing, because x did not equal 1 in the first observation, so y was just set to missing. The new variable y was initialized to missing, and since it did not meet the condition, if x equals 1, it was kept as missing. For the second observation, if x equals 1, then y equals 2, we see that because the second observation, x equals 1, then y was set to 2. So again, new variables are initialized to missing, and then they were replaced with a value based on this if-then statement. So when creating new variables, there are some important facts to consider. First of all, missing values are less than any value. So a missing value for a numeric variable is smaller than all numbers. So in that example, if age is less than 50, then young equals 1. Let's say for a particular person, the age was missing. It was a period. For that person, if you ran that observation through that if-then statement, that person would be classified as young equals 1, even though that person was missing for age. Again, missing values are less than any value. So we need to be very careful when we're constructing if-then statements and we have missing values in our data set. Again, as we've talked about before, we reference missing values for numeric variables as a period. So if we wanted to reference a missing value in an if-then statement, we would say if SBP equals period, then do some action. So SBP in this example stands for systolic blood pressure, which is a number, and if it was missing, then we would want to do some kind of action. If we have a character variable and we want to refer to that in an if-then statement, if we are creating new variables, we would say if clinic equals, and then it's just two single or two double quotes right next to each other. And that would indicate if clinic equals missing, then do some kind of action. You want to check to make sure that the new variables you created are appropriate. And so some of the ways that I recommend checking to make sure that the new variables are created correctly are, first of all, to display the original and the new variables. So if the original variable EDUC was missing, you would expect that the new variable you created from that variable EDUC, college, is also missing. Also, you could run proc means on original and new variables and make sure that both variables have the same number of missing values. You could do a proc means and do descriptive statistics for EDUC and college, and you would expect that you have the same number of observations that have missing values for each variable. Another way that you could also check to make sure your new variables are created correctly is by running a proc freq on the original and the new variable. And again, you would expect that the same number of subjects that had education recorded would be equal to the same number of subjects that had college, which may have been a new variable created from education. So how does SAS handle missing data when creating new variables? With direct assignments or formulas, if any variable on the right-hand side is missing, then the new variable will be missing. So if you were creating the variable BMI and weight was missing, for that particular observation, BMI would be missing. So if any variable on the right-hand side is missing, then the new variable will be missing. With indirect assignments, new variables are initialized to missing, but may be given a value if any of the if statements are true. And again, the tricky thing with indirect assignments is that, for example, if age is missing, then with the statement if age less than 50, then young equals 1, the subject whose age is missing will then be categorized as young equals 1, unless you have a special statement that makes sure that young equals missing for the subject who is also missing age. And we will look at an example of that in the SAS demonstration. So what are some values to set a new variable to? We could say if age is less than 20, then teenager equals 1. Else, if age is greater than or equal to 20, then teenager equals 2. Or we could recode it with 1, 0. 0, 1 works well for proc means and for regression. 1, 2 can be used. It's sometimes perhaps more intuitive. We could also create a new variable that's a character string. So here we have if age is less than 20, then teenager equals yes. So when we're creating a character string, we need to put the string in quotes. Yes, no makes the value clear, but the variable can't be used in proc means or in a regression because it's not numeric. The SAS demonstration video, Recoding Variables, introduces both correct and incorrect ways to recode variables.